All right. Good morning, everybody. So I was just sitting here looking at the bonds. We don't have any economics on the table really worth talking about. This kind of feels like a market looking for a catalyst. And I was looking at the bonds. We started to get this little shift here first thing this morning. And it's noteworthy from the way that we generally approach this. When the bonds are making a move, we kind of want to ask that question: are they going to help when we're trading in these futures indexes, or is it going to hurt? Right? So when we're breaking to the upside through a area of support, through an area of resistance, we want to look at opposite. So we're looking at the bonds. You got the Dow, take your pick, the Nasdaq, the S&P. If you got the bonds breaking to the upside, what do you have going on in the indexes? Are they also breaking to the upside, showing that both of these markets are correlated? Or are they breaking to the downside, showing that these two markets are not correlated? Don't assume that stocks and bonds move opposite of each other. There's been periods in history where they move together, not just in one day, but for weeks and months at a time. Tastyworks did some really great research on stocks and bonds. And, it's a general statement, stocks and bonds. When we say that kind of statement, it doesn't mean we're talking like Apple and Microsoft and Google. It means we're more talking about, the ES futures, the Nasdaq futures, the Dow, the Russell, quote, stocks versus bonds. So, you could take a look at what they've been doing over at Tastyworks on YouTube. Just type in something like stocks versus bonds. They've done a lot of research, some pretty interesting stuff. It will just provide a little bit of context, right? Kind of get you maybe a little deeper of an understanding. Doesn't mean you still understand everything that's going on. There have been days where I look at this and think it's not supposed to do that. And yet it is. So there's, what the heck do you do when you're seeing something happen that's not supposed to happen? Note that it's odd and different. Maybe reduce your position size a little bit and trade anyways. So we had basically a reset yesterday. The reset being mostly, we had that real aggressive move after the announcement, and then we basically just came right back down to where we were before that announcement had taken place. So from that point of view, we are, quote, reset at this point. It's done. Now the market can move on with whatever it has for its bias. That doesn't necessarily need to be good or bad. It really does seem like we're looking for a catalyst, so keep your eyes out there on some of the bigger FANG names. I noticed Tesla this morning closed the gap around that 916 area. So it's at a structural level. There's quite a few names that we would focus on, but the FANG names, or FANG Man T, are the ones that dominate this market. So if those 5 names are getting the beat down, then that's pretty much what's going to be our marketplace. On these days, we're not able to really lean in on the sectors the way that we normally would. So, maybe have to go in and actually be stock pickers and run more of your own personal watch lists, scanners, and setups. So if this is the reset, we're looking for a move back up. It's very likely that we just stay inside of yesterday's price action. That wouldn't even be considered, a negative. We set an all-new high this week. That's all that they're going to be talking about. That's what they put out there on the news. The general American out there who doesn't trade and doesn't really keep track, that's all they're going to hear. Markets at all new highs. Everything is great. So a break to the downside here in the ES is going to leave us finally breaking through this ledge from Wednesday. We'll retest 4,600, which is really a combination of yesterday's low, Wednesday's low, and Tuesday's price shelf. It wasn't Tuesday's low, but it was very close. So we got a structural low around that 4,600, and I would look at it that way. I would not try to pin it right to Wednesday's low. I would use the roundy. It's got more validity. And there is a cog line at 46.11. So a break to the downside, that's what we will resolve. We're only down 0.5% this morning so far. We have an ADR of 1.7. So, technically speaking, we could still fall another 1.3 and it would still be considered normal on the day. It wouldn't even be something unique or special. A move back up would first need to get through that 50-period moving average. I love the 50. That thing works on any time frame. Looking for a 50 cross. That will resolve the Globex high. I would pay particular attention to yesterday's open and then challenge the previous all-time high. It's very unlikely that we make that move today without some kind of catalyst. And here's the deal. Market watch is empty, right? We got the rig count today, but that has no bearing on our market for the most part. I worked on those drilling rigs for 20 years. So we do have a shallow volume profile in this area. We can move through there very quickly. If we do, we have a cog line at 47.11. So not only do we have the open of yesterday, got a cog line. And that pretty much maps out the ES. A lot of times I talk about I don't want to come in and trade unless it's going to offer me something. So on a day like this, for an example, I generally don't come in and trade on a day that looks like that. And it's not because I can't do it. It's because I don't want to do it. I don't have a lot of confidence or conviction in a trade taken in this environment. So yeah, I would do it, maybe 2 contracts or 3 contracts. And I could get, 5-6 points at a shot and yay, Bob's your uncle, and spend a lot of money in commissions. But where's the conviction? I wouldn't size up and come into these with 12 to 15 contracts for a 10 to 20 point move. I wouldn't have any conviction that it would work. Tradable? Yes. Something that I want to participate in? No. You really want to think about the kind of market environment you're trading and ask if that fits what you're trying to accomplish. I get people that tell me, I want to trade and hold through this whole thing. How do I do that? I got to get better at that. I want to do that. And then I see them trading something that looks like this. And when I say, what are you doing? Oh, well, I just wanted to trade. Yeah, well, I thought you wanted these big moves. No, I just wanted to trade. Well, you can't have it both ways, right? If you trade in junk and then you get chewed up, and then you are disgusted with yourself and you walk away from the computer and you miss the amazing move because you were frustrated and had given up. Yeah. I mean, we've all been there at some point. I don't trade like a computer, right? So I tend to be more of a pivot point trader. For the Nasdaq this morning, you can see that we've been tagging these lower highs and lower lows, and we've started to stabilize around that 15.7. We are down nearly 1%, but we have an ADR of 2.4, so we could fall another 1.5 and it still wouldn't be considered out of line. But we have stopped falling for the moment, right? It's kind of stabilized. We've been setting these equal lows. We are just really paused right there. Nice clean wedge, controlling candle. This is what we talk about when we, reference expansion and contraction. This thing had been just working its way down, and you can see very clearly how everything is different now. Should the market break to the downside, but add a few more days here. We're already below these pivotal lows. $15.6 is going to be a little bit of help. I wouldn't expect it to save us. And 550, so 15,550, which would basically set us at the low of that Friday from a few weeks back. They don't have a lot of strength or validity on their own. They're just going to be something to slow it down. A break to the upside would have us resolving that 10-period moving average. Globex high. We'd have to make it through the 50. And then there's the open from yesterday. This is a very shallow area when it comes to the volume profile. We're likely to move through that relatively quickly. So if we do, I know it seems like a long ways away, but if we do start breaking through, especially if we get above the 50 and the Globex high, we could move through that area very quick. But there are no catalysts on the table. I did hear the president say something about, prepare for a winter of viruses and disease and death. So, the market really liked that this morning. Jon Snow, winter's coming, but, yeah, whatever. All right, so the bonds are making that exaggerated move, and it's like we talked about before. When the bonds are making a move or the dollar is making a move, you gotta kind of try to look around and see what it's doing to the market, because we don't want to just assume we know right off the bat what it's going to do. For the dollar, we want to keep comparing that to the VIX, looking for any signal whatsoever that these two are starting to synchronize and move in step together, because that's going to really tell us a lot about the global marketplace. We know that stocks and bonds are going to move around, irregardless, but it's the exaggerated moves, the big moves that we want to be concerned about, right? For the most part, we don't want to see the bonds making big moves or the dollar making big moves. There's our breakdown that we was talking about at the beginning of the stream. Bonds breaking out of a resistance to the upside, while stocks are breaking down through support to the downside. I hadn't expected to, but let's take a quick glance at the VIX futures. We slipped into backwardation earlier in the month. You can see we're back in contango, January, February, March, and April. Just a nice, gentle, smooth curve to the upside. But we are getting bid up in the futures again, so it's worth keeping an eye on in here. All right, the sectors are basically pretty negative. There's a little bit of a turnaround, in utilities and building materials, but it's a minor amount. I would really lean on the options watch lists, companies that have weekly options. That's kind of my go-to. There's over 600 products that have weekly options. Companies earn the right to have weeklies by being liquid. So if they don't even have weeklies, they tell you, it's a very big neon sign saying that their options are illiquid, and you probably don't want to day trade them since the bid ask is going to be so wide. It's going to be difficult to get in and out. So when we focus on weekly options, then we can at least have some semblance of liquidity. That doesn't guarantee, though, that they're liquid just because they have weeklies. Just a good start. So we have a few names that are red to green. It's a nice day trade setup that I like to see. Come out onto the daily chart, find a red day from yesterday. We're looking for a rally up in the pre-market to yesterday's open or better. There are quite a few of those on the list this morning. That's where I'm going to be looking. Plus, this move in the bonds, I would be watching finance today. And I've been saying that a lot this week, but that's where the plays have been. Finance and energy. So you can see the sector with the crypto just really beat down. Nothing here. Missed my spot. Same thing with the chip sector. Nothing, right? So you're really going to want to lean in on those weekly options or whatever scanner you're using. I did a video on the high-low graph and how you can modify it on Thinkorswim. And that thing is pretty amazing for finding opportunities through the day, breakouts on the intraday. It's like nonstop breakouts on that thing. Absolutely amazing. So that'll at least give you trade opportunities and trade ideas through the day. We're very close to the end of the year, guys. It's going to be, a very odd market. And there's nothing wrong with standing aside in a market that you don't quite understand or that is moving in ways that you aren't comfortable with. So, never feel bad about hanging it up and deciding to go do something else, to learn something else without actually trading in it, build a new strategy, spend time with the family, right? Something. That's all I got. I will see you all in the futures room today. It's my day to stream in there. And other than that, have a good weekend.